Holy crap, is it cold out there. It is 18 degrees here in Pennsylvania today. And with that being said, it is too cold to film outside. With just over 1,000 miles logged on my Focus RS and one small road trip, I guess today would be a good day to go over the 5 things I love and the 5 things I hate about my Focus RS. So a little backstory here, I got my 2016 Ford Focus RS at a Copart auction, give or take about 9 months ago. I have a little problem with the unload. We're not the smartest people, so we're gonna try something real quick. It took me about 8 months to get this rebuilt. The damage was pretty significant.
Get it off my car. You don't need that to begin with. Obviously, it didn't work.
If you're into these type of cars, you know how hyped up they are. Fast forward about 9 months, I'm happy I bought the car. I'm happy I rebuilt it, even though it was a little bit of a headache. We just completely bottomed out here.
What are you worried about a couple scraps? Wow, this car is slow.
Yeah, we're getting pulled by a John Deere right now. The car down here at the garage, we're gonna get this thing jacked up on some jack stands and we're gonna start tearing it apart. I'm already regretting buying this car because now is the time we actually start working on it, and I hate working on stuff. But in the end, trust me, this car lives up to the hype. First, we're gonna start off with the 5 things I hate about this car. Keep in mind, this list was hard to make. There's not a whole lot to hate about this car. Also, keep in mind, this is a 2016 Ford Focus RS in its stock form. I know there's a lot of aftermarket mods that can take care of some of the stuff we're gonna be complaining about today. Well, let's get into it. Let's start off with the clutch. It's one of these pedals down here. Just kidding, it's the pedal right here. If I'm being honest, it's more of an on or off filling. So yeah, this car is good for the back roads. This car is good for the highways, but in town driving, that clutch is kind of harsh. It's kind of hard to just pull out slowly in traffic, kind of hard to push in, but you got to keep in mind it has a 350 horsepower engine from factory. So I mean, that clutch has a lot of power to hold. I guess on the same note, while we're talking about the clutch, now I've tried this at all RPMs, no matter what, the shifting between first and second gear, it's jerky. Like, it doesn't matter if you're at 4,000 RPMs and you let the clutch out slowly, or if you're at like 2,000 RPMs, you just let the clutch out fast. It doesn't matter what RPM range you're at, from first to second gear, it is jerky. I believe there's mods like an engine mount that will take care of that. Yeah, as far as the clutch and the first to second gear shifts, that is one thing I hate. But keep in mind, we are being a little bit picky here. Let's open this up and get a little more light in here. Now, number 2 on the list of the things I hate, these analog gauges. In my opinion, they're kind of generic. For me, this car was from Canada, so I got Celsius readings, I got the bar, but the worst gauge up here is probably this boost gauge. From the whole way back here, it's hard to see, and it seems like the physical analog gauge actually lags. In my opinion, I feel like a boost analog gauge can't physically read the boost pressures in an effective way because they fluctuate so much from 0 to 20 PSI back to 0. I mean, then you got your oil temp gauge. I do look at that when I go to warm the car up, along with my oil pressure. Since it is winter time, I notice when you start the car up, the oil pressure is way up, even at idle. But that's probably because this car runs 5W50, which is some pretty thick oil. But overall, it's not a bad feature of the car. I just wish it was a little more modern. Number 3 on the things I hate about my Focus RS is this infotainment system. I mean, it lags like crazy. So for example, if you're on this screen, you go back, look how long it takes just to load the next menu. And say if you're going to traction control, you go to settings, driver assists, launch control. I guess it would help if I show the buttons too. We're back at this screen, we go back. Look at that response time. It probably took 2 seconds. So realistically, to put this car in launch control, it probably takes a good 10 seconds. Number 4 on the things I hate about this Focus RS is the cheap sound this door makes. It has that hollow sound to it. The door just sounds so cheap and hollow. I don't know if it's the door or the door handle, but something with the door just feels very, very cheap. Considering this car has over a $40,000 MSRP price. Number 5 on the list of things I hate about the Focus RS is these turn signal stalks. These things look and feel so cheap. And let's talk about where the suspension button is. It's right here at the end. So either when I go to turn the turn signal on, I hit the suspension button, turn my sports suspension on by accident, or when I go to change my suspension, I either hit that and turn the turn signal on. One of those things, bad location, just an overall bad design. Sorry if it looks a little different, my camera died, I had to switch cameras. Now that we got the negativity out of the way, let's get into what I love about the Focus RS, which is pretty much everything. That last list was pretty hard for me to put together. I mean, this car is so likable. So starting off with the 5 things I like about the Focus RS. Number 1 being how you can completely change the feel of this car with the different modes it has. It's got a drive mode selector right here, and it's got normal, sport, track, drift. Drift mode is pretty cool. Then over here at the end of the turn signal stalk, you got the suspension. Hold that in, you can either turn the suspension off or turn the sports suspension on. Modes make the car feel completely different. So for example, I was reading a lot online. People were saying the suspension in this car is too stiff. Well, I'm gonna have to agree with half that. The suspension is too stiff in sport mode. I'm not even kidding. I was changing a song on the radio and I was going over the bumps on the highway and my phone was literally vibrating out of my hand. I couldn't even properly pick a song. But I will say I live here in Pennsylvania. The roads are not that great, but people are being a little over dramatic with the suspension. We'll say the faster you go, the better the suspension feels. Even in the softest setting, it is pretty stiff. But with that being said, this car can literally take a turn at 80 mile an hour and barely have any body roll. You can't really have the best of both worlds. You can't have comfort and performance, so you do sacrifice comfort for the performance. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a rally car. About a second after switching from normal to sport, I believe the steering wheel gets stiffer. The throttle response livens up quite a bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe a valve in the muffler opens up, so the car does get a little bit louder. For me personally, I like the sound of the stock exhaust. I don't think I'm gonna be upgrading to an aftermarket system. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a 4-cylinder, and a 4-cylinder can only sound so good. This car is plenty loud enough, even in the stock form. Then there's track mode. It's pretty much sport mode with the traction control off and the sports suspension on. But you can go in there, you can turn the suspension on and keep it in track mode, or you can keep the suspension on and turn on traction control. So you can really adjust these modes to how you want to drive the car. And then there's drift mode, what everyone wants to know about. I believe it puts around 80% of the power to the rear wheels. So essentially this car is built to drift around. I was messing around in this mode a little bit, and trust me, I was having a blast. Number 2 on the list of the things I like about the Focus RS is the seats. Now, a lot of you guys are probably gonna disagree. I have read stuff online that people absolutely hate these seats. These right here are the Recaro RS seats with blue stitching and Alcantara inserts. I'm 6 foot, I'm 190 pounds. I'd say if I weigh any more, these seats would start to be uncomfortable. If I have my coat on top of my hoodie, I can start feeling it getting tight right here on the sides. So yeah, I can see if you're maybe over 200 pounds, yes, these seats would be extremely uncomfortable for you. I saw someone online saying you sit up too high. I don't know about that. In my opinion, I love these seats. I love how you sit in this car. So yeah, the seats, no issue whatsoever. Number 3 on the things I love about the Focus RS is the power and handling. This thing is a beast. This is probably the most powerful manual car I've driven, so I can't really compare it to anything, but honestly, it's pretty easy. You can be in 3rd gear, 4th gear, 5th gear, or 6th gear, and you get on the gas, and it still pulls. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a fast car. I mean, it is 350 horsepower. It has plenty of power, but in the stock form, I wouldn't consider it fast. But if you tune this car, apparently it can really get up and go. Now, with the power it has and the handling this thing has, it makes a perfect combo. It's wintertime right now. There's snow on the road. I really haven't got on it too much other than on the highway. So yeah, I love the power and I love the handling of this car. Number 4 on the things I love about the Focus RS is the infotainment system. Now, I did do a little bit of a hack here. Go to the settings here and go over. You can see I'm actually running Sync 3 software version 3.4. From Ford, you can only get the official updated NSAT is 3.1. The Sync 3 system that was on here was quite outdated, to be honest. Even the maps looked pretty choppy. But I did a little software hack and we run in 3.4. I guess the only thing I need to do now is change out this USB port, because on the 2016, They don't have Apple CarPlay. And with this software hack and a different USB port, apparently we can get Apple CarPlay, which would be a huge improvement to what's already on here. If you guys want to know how to get Sync 3 version 3.4, let me know in the comments and I'll draw up a tutorial on how to update your infotainment system, because technology is the first thing that gets outdated and no one wants to be stuck in 2016. And another thing with this infotainment system is the Bluetooth connects instantly. Even with the old version I had, as soon as I got in the car, my phone would be connected. There's a pretty big issue with my other car I daily drive as well. It literally takes me probably like 2 minutes to connect my phone to my car every time I get in. It is so annoying. This car's Bluetooth system is perfect. This number 5 on the list, I'm kind of back and forth on it, but the auto start and auto rev. Yes, it is very annoying at the stoplight, because say if it does shut off, the light turns green, you have to push the clutch in and you go to shift it back into first gear. Well, when you push the clutch in, the engine starts up, but you technically don't have power for like 2 to 3 seconds while the engine's kind of starting and getting back to idle speed. At the same time, you're already letting the clutch out, so usually I end up stalling. I will say on the positive side of that, since the engine auto start is on, when you do stall the car, as soon as you push the clutch back in to restart the car, it automatically restarts. Then here's a very weird feature to get used to. It'd be easy if we just demonstrate it. Let's put it in first gear. And if you look at the RPMs, I'm not hitting the gas at all. I'm just letting the clutch out. We let the clutch out. Oh, I should probably take the parking brake off. Okay, we let the clutch out without hitting the gas. It automatically revs up. See, we're starting to move just a little bit. I don't even have the gas on. Ready? We'll try it again. Letting the clutch out, no gas. It automatically revs the car up. And it's essentially, it's almost impossible to stall the car. So it's a very easy car for beginner stick drivers to learn. But I do find it quite annoying when I'm just trying to like back up a little bit to adjust my parking. It sounds like I'm revving my engine to back up. So overall, I do like the auto start and stop feature, mainly in the drive-thrus. And that auto rev feature saved me a bunch of times from stalling. Overall, I feel like those small features are the things that really separate this car from its competitors. That is the 5 things I like and hate about my Focus RS. Let me put this thing in drift mode and let's go do some donuts. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys smash that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. And if you have a Focus RS, let me know what you think about my opinion. And we'll see you in the next video. Peace. I don't even know how to drive. Now in charge of the straps, how they look.
It ain't go. Wait, hold on. I gotta slap it.